विधाता, पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा, उच्छल जलधि तरंगा, तब शुभ नामे जागे, तब शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तब जय गाथा, जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Honorable Chief Guest Shri Gopal Krishna Gandhi, Honorable Chief Justice of India and Chancellor of the University Shri N.V. Ramana, Honorable Judges of the Supreme Court of India, Honorable Chief Justices and Judges of the High Courts, Honorable Minister of Higher Education Shri C.N. Ashwath Narayan, Honorable Minister for Law, Parliamentary Affairs and Legislation Shri J.C. Madhuswamy, Honorable Chairman of the Bar Council of India Shri Manan Kumar Mishra, Honorable Members of the General Council, Executive Council, Academic Council and the Finance Committee of the University. Dear students, parents, faculty and staff, good morning and welcome to the 29th Annual Convocation of the National Law School of India University. Last year, I emphasized the unique virtual mode of the 2020 convocation, hoping that this was a one-off. Yet, here we are in 2021, physically distanced once again and convening digitally in the long shadow of the coronavirus pandemic. The difficult circumstances this year have kept us from pursuing our educational goals with the fullest rigor and sticking to our academic schedules in every respect. Moreover, the COVID pandemic has reminded us that there are times where our academic concerns must give way to more pressing and urgent concerns of preserving the health and safety of our academic community. Nevertheless, we've been resolute and determined to solemnly convene here today at this annual convocation to proudly graduate students in various academic programs. In 2021, we graduate students with the following degrees: 4 PhD, 4 MPhil, 45 Masters in Public Policy, 46 Masters in Law, 83 Bachelors of Arts and Law Honors, and 683 students with Masters of Business Law and other postgraduate diploma programs in the off-campus mode. On 28 previous occasions, we have sent out graduates into the world to excel and distinguish themselves in various professional fields and public life. The graduates of the 29th Annual Convocation now stand at the threshold of embarking on careers of distinction and purpose. Their families and friends have supported them at every step of their journey through NLS. The university owes these families and friends a fulsome thanks and a hearty congratulations. The 29th Annual Convocation coincides with the 75th year celebrations of India's freedom from colonial rule. This convocation celebrates this historic milestone by inviting as our chief guest Shri Gopal Krishna Gandhi, whose personal history and experience, career and public service, and intellectual exertions have all been intricately intertwined with and shaped the history of our nation. As you, our students, step beyond the protective walls of the university into the careers that await you, Sri Gandhi will address you on the larger significance of this moment in your lives and our collective futures. On my part, I will in this brief report reflect on the academic year 2020-21 and throw a forward glance at the exciting and challenging new plans adopted by the university for the next few years. In my last two convocation addresses, I've emphasized the critical importance of the university rediscovering its founding motivations and values, embedding key principles in our everyday practices, and holding ourselves to these high aspirations on an ongoing basis. In the last 2 years, we are proud to say that this university has fundamentally restored this founding vision. The core purpose of this university is to be a national and international pioneer in legal education. To achieve this purpose, we need to select the best students and then have the best possible faculty group guide them through a rigorous and demanding curriculum. Though we are keen to improve and modify our student selection processes, highly motivated and capable students enter the university each year and energize our collective lives. In the last 2 years, the university has recruited nearly 20 exceptional faculty with graduate and doctoral degrees from the best universities around the world. Further, we've engaged over 100 visiting faculty from the legal profession and academics from across the world to diversify the intellectual and educational experience at this university. These efforts have already brought fresh perspectives, rigor, and diligence to the academic programs at the university. We will continue to recruit and grow our core and visiting faculty pool in the years ahead and are committed to ensuring that NLSIU remains the first institution of choice for the most talented and committed faculty in India and beyond. To sustain these academic achievements, we need to ground the university in robust financial foundations. In the last 2 years, we have reversed our legacy of budget deficits through a careful mix of augmenting our revenues and tight expenditure control. We have recruited highly qualified staff to ensure that our current financial policies will preserve the university's financial autonomy while creating the headroom and resources to adopt aggressive and sustainable growth plans. In this financial year, we have refunded a portion of student fees to ameliorate the adverse COVID pandemic conditions and still generated surpluses that we have committed to rebuilding core infrastructure at the university. After several years, our annual audited account statements have no qualifications by our statutory auditors due to the exceptional effort put in by our accounts and finance team to ensure that we decisively turn our back on past practices and are ready to move ahead with confidence. The university infrastructure comprising classrooms and academic and learning spaces have remained frozen in time. Returning graduates often celebrate the unchanging character of the main quadrangle in the academic block and point out that the chairs they sat on 20 years ago remain in the classrooms. While NLSIU has put in place infrastructure that was very advanced for the early 1990s, our inability to augment and improve these facilities has left us way behind where we should be to remain leaders in legal education. The university has already begun a core infrastructure upgrade, which includes classrooms, residential spaces, common spaces, and the library. Simultaneously, we have begun redesigning and redeveloping our IT infrastructure to cater and respond to the digital transformation currently underway in all areas of our collective lives: teaching and learning, administration and accounts, and residential life. Despite the massive disruptions arising from the COVID pandemic, this university has successfully restored its foundations with deliberate speed and purpose. While many visitors and faculty remark on the rapid pace and significant transformation already underway, the more extensive transformation is yet to come. Over the last 2 years, the university has co-developed a strategic plan with the faculty and governing bodies that integrates academic, financial, and infrastructural growth in a phased manner over the next 4 years. This plan, titled the NLSIU Inclusion and Expansion Plan 2021 to 25, was reviewed and adopted by the governing bodies of the university in April-May 2021. The plan is designed to ensure that NLSIU consolidates and builds on its status as India's #1 law university while responding to contemporary social needs and the current policy environment. Two overarching concerns motivate the plan. First, the university has failed to respond to several calls to increase student diversity by admitting students from various marginalized, disadvantaged, and underrepresented sections of Indian society. Secondly, the National Education Policy 2020 encourages larger, multidisciplinary higher education institutions that enroll significantly higher numbers of students. This strategic plan anticipates and responds to these concerns through 3 initiatives. First, student inclusion and expansion. The university currently has over 660 students enrolled in the on-campus programs. By 2028-29, we plan to reach a projected size of over 2,200 students. We will increase student intake in current academic programs, and we will launch a new 3-year LLB program using NLSIU's unique curricular and pedagogical approach to legal education. I will say more about this LLB as I close this report. Further, the university is rapidly developing technology platforms for online and hybrid educational content to introduce courses for pre-law, law students, and professional lawyers. Simultaneously, the university will implement a new inclusion policy that provides for reservations for several categories in a phased manner over the next 4 academic years. Categories that benefit will include OBC, EWS, Karnataka students, and women students. Further, the university will develop a stronger financial aid policy and academic support program to ensure all students benefit from a transformative education at NLSIU. The second initiative is to ensure that NLSIU maintains the highest academic standards of teaching and research. We will strive to maintain a 1:15 faculty-student ratio across all programs. So, we will grow the faculty from the current strength of about 40 to about 115 faculty in the next few years. We also aim to develop a research faculty cadre to recruit scholars dedicated to path-breaking research and reorganize research publications at the university to achieve and sustain internationally peer-recognized scholarly output. Third, to remain a residential campus, the university will need to expand academic and residential facilities. We aim to secure an additional parcel of 12 acres of land with the support of the government of Karnataka and capital grants to construct 90,000 square feet of classroom and learning spaces and 250,000 square feet of residential facilities. At all times, we will strive to ensure that annual fees from on-campus and off-campus academic programs and research grants will provide for the annual revenue expenditure, thereby ensuring that the university remains financially autonomous. These dizzying growth numbers convey the exciting scale and ambition of the plan, as well as significant capacity challenges that we must overcome in the years ahead. Our successful implementation of these plans is neither predestined nor a foregone conclusion. Hence, let me conclude with two short vignettes that give me confidence and hope that this plan is well on its way to a successful implementation. Today, I'm glad to announce that the university is in the final stages of securing its largest capital grant ever. The Infosys Foundation has approved a 5 crore grant to redevelop the Sri Narayan Rao Melgiri National Law Library, to augment capacity, to redevelop and rezone the library and its surroundings, and adopt a digital learning and inclusion initiative. We aim to create a green and sustainable library that will become the heart of social and intellectual life of the university. Some alumni and several university staff have worked tirelessly to ensure that we make the NLS library a beacon of legal education and research in India in the 21st century. We expect to make a formal announcement and share more details about the library upgradation in November 2021. The university was launched on the back of an audacious curricular experiment, the 5-year integrated BA LLB program. The experiment succeeded beyond expectations and secured NLS's legacy as the institution that incubated and radically disrupted legal education in India. 3 decades after that initial success, today we announce the launch of a new interdisciplinary 3-year LLB embedded in an experiential learning pedagogy. The university has secured the necessary regulatory approvals as well as permission from its governing bodies to launch this program. The inaugural batch will begin their education in July 2022 and will help re-energize and transform postgraduate legal education across India in the years ahead. We have assembled the best faculty team to redevelop India's oldest academic law degree, and we invite the brightest and best graduates from any discipline to join us as we set out to radically transform legal education yet again. These examples of extraordinary effort and significant achievement give me the confidence that this university will once again radically transform the benchmarks and standards of Indian legal education in the 21st century like it did earlier in the late 20th century. I conclude by inviting all those who are committed to building world-class higher educational institutions in India, delivering a socially engaged and transformative education to the most inclusive and representative student community to join us on this journey. Respected Chancellor, I have the honor to request you, sir, to declare the convocation open.
This 29th convocation of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, has been called to confer degrees upon the candidates who in the examinations held for the purpose have been certified to be worthy of the same. I now declare the convocation open. Do you sincerely promise and declare that if admitted to the degree for which you are candidates and for which you have been recommended, you will in your daily life and conversation conduct yourselves as worthy members of this university? Let the candidates be now presented.
Sir, I have the honor to present to you the candidates who have qualified for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, I admit the candidates in absentia to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy of this university.
Sir, I have the honor to present to you the candidates who have qualified for the degree of Master of Philosophy, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, I admit the candidates in absentia to the degree of Master of Philosophy of this university.
Sir, I have the honor to present to you the candidates who have qualified for the degree of Master of Laws, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, I admit the candidates in absentia to the degree of Master of Laws of this university.
Sir, I have the honor to present to you the candidates who have qualified for the degree of Master of Public Policy, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, I admit the candidates in absentia to the degree of Master of Public Policy of this university.
Sir, I have the honor to present to you the candidates who have qualified for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Law Honours, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, I admit the candidates in absentia to the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Laws Honours of this university.
Sir, I have the honor to present to you the candidates who have qualified for the degree of Master of Business Laws and the respective postgraduate diplomas, to which I pray they may be admitted.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as the Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, I admit the candidates in absentia to the degree of Master of Business Laws and the PG diplomas of this university.
Honorable Chief Justice of India and Chancellor of the University, Shri N.V. Ramana, Chairman of the Bar Council of India, Shri Manan Kumar Mishra, Honorable Members of the Governing Council, Vice Chancellor Shri Sudhir Krishnaswamy, faculty, alumni, and friends. It is a great honor for me, as it would be for anyone, to be invited to join the annual convocation of the university and share some thoughts relevant to the study, the teaching, and the practicing of law. I am acutely conscious of the fact that I have zero contact with the world of the law, except by virtue of the very fortuitous fact of having friends from among the legal fraternity, something which I am extremely grateful for I have learnt so much from them, their wisdom, their patience, and their hard work. So I am daunted by this honor. But I must say that I accepted the invitation almost instinctively, for it gave me a chance to express my admiration and my respect for the teaching and the learning of law. An admiration which in recent times has increased exponentially. And by recent times, I of course mean the COVID times, when so much has been done by the courts of law, by lawyers, judges across the country at different levels to dispense justice, to meet the requirements of the public involved in legal matters without any disruption, adapting to new technologies without flinching, without fumbling, and without any appreciable reduction in output. I am not saying this statistically. I do not know if the number of cases which have been handled during the pandemic have come down or not. What I mean is the amount of work put in by the judiciary and by lawyers, women and men, practicing in small courts and big courts, unceasingly, relentlessly, against the odds posed by the pandemic. My admiration is a minor way of putting my feelings, which are one of respect. About a decade ago, I was invited by the Honorable Madras High Court to speak before a gathering of the Honorable Judges of the court and some invitees, including lawyers. And I was wondering what I should speak on, since I have no law background and little familiarity with legal treatises and texts. So I thought I will speak on something which comes instinctively to my mind, which was respect for the law. And that is something which I have uppermost in my mind today. And so, recalling some of the things I said on that occasion, and adding to it things which have occurred to me in the last few months, may I speak, with your permission, Honorable Chancellor, on the subject of respect. There are many forms of response which people have to what they behold. Take, for instance, the world of music. I am no musician. I have no knowledge of music, but I have an affinity for music. And when I told some friends of mine who were experts in music that I don't know anything about music, they said, "You don't have to tell us that, we know it." But they also said, it doesn't really matter, because what we want is to be able to connect with those who understand music or appreciate music. The same thing about law. I don't know anything about law, and yet I feel a certain, what shall I say, a bandhutva, a sense of bonding with legal situations, and they are nothing other than human situations. And so when I feel respect for judges and magistrates and lawyers, it is because I have a respect for certain values which they embody. And this is not to say that judges and magistrates and lawyers, some of whom were called at one stage pleaders, vakils, are faultless. Far from it. How can they be faultless? How can anyone who is practicing any trade or profession or any calling be faultless? Because human beings are not faultless. And everyone in any situation is drawn from the common stock of humanity. So they bring with them into their profession all the pluses and minuses, the strengths and weaknesses, the flaws indeed of just being human. And it is human to err, it is human to be flawed. And yet there is something which I just want to describe here by example. When does one shed one's limitations, one's deficiencies, one's shortcomings? When one is in a certain environment. If you enter a place of worship, you keep your footwear out and you try to feel, even if not always successfully, somewhat humble before the great mystery of creation. When you enter a concert with a great artist playing or singing or performing, you cease to be the smaller person that you normally are and try to connect to something bigger than yourself. And there's a hush before the concert begins. When you enter a courtroom, whether you're a lawyer or a magistrate, or I do not know whether it's the right expression to say litigant, but you know what I mean. There's a hush. When you enter a legislative assembly or parliament, quite prepared to see scenes of disorder, quite prepared for noisy debates, sometimes more than noisy. And yet when you enter it, and when the chairman or the speaker are about to come, there is a silence. For a moment, everything pauses, and people stand in respect for the great institution of the legislature. Anyone who has observed the functioning of law, of our courts, would know what I mean when I say that there is an instinctive respect for the judiciary. This is of course not to say that this respect has taken a few knocks at the doors of disappointment. It has taken a few knocks at the hands of persons who have in a way let down the profession. But they are essentially the exceptions that prove the rule. And what is the rule? The rule is that generations of wisdom, generations of experience, which have been codified into laws, tested against human experience, and the touchstone of what it does to human beings, that codification in the form of our statutes, is in the hands of these people who are no different from us, but who, when they don the mantle, physical or metaphorical, of the law, they become bigger than themselves. Their cause becomes greater than earning a livelihood or just spending the day doing what a person would do in the ordinary course of life. They become agents of bigness. They become instruments of something greater than themselves. And so there is respect. I want to speak to the graduating students today about what they are going to enter. This is of course true of graduating students in any field, whether it's medicine or engineering. So of law. But in the case of the law, and I think it also applies to medicine, there's a great responsibility, a huge responsibility towards the people, because what they do and say and what they are able to accomplish is going to change the course of life. It's going to save them, or it's going to punish them. And so a huge responsibility rests on them. The respect is not something that comes from the mind. It is not a product of the human intelligence. It is a feeling. It is something which is instinctive. You cannot describe it. You can't have many gradations of respect. You can't say, of course it's very common to say, I have great respect for so-and-so. My highest respects, my deepest respects. But these are casual phrases. Respect is respect. It is either there or it is not there. You can't have respect grade 1, respect grade 2, respect Padma Vibhushan, respect Padma Bhushan, respect Bhushan, Shri. It's either there or it's not there. It is, of course, also retractable, which is very important. It can be retracted if the person who has enjoyed respect, who deserves respect, and who has received respect bountifully from people, somehow betrays it. So it is retractable, which is what makes the responsibility of a judge or a magistrate, an attorney, a public prosecutor, a standing counsel, so huge. Respect is about trust. It is trust that has been earned and given. The Tamil word for it is very simple. It's called Nambikai. The Sanskrit word for it is Vishwasam. I should imagine that in Kannada or in Telugu or in Marathi, Vishwasam is a word of standard occurrence. Is a word which anybody would understand. In Urdu, Hindustani, it is Etbar. Etbar. Huge words. They are the opposite of the words that may symbolize betrayal, that may symbolize playing false. You don't expect the bench to play false. The witness is asked to swear truth, the whole truth, and so on. So irrespective of the fact that things have gone wrong in courts of law, essentially, it is a chamber where truth is expected to be spoken, where truth is expected to be found, recognized, announced as the truth. But what is truth? Asked jesting Pilate, and would not wait for an answer. Very difficult to define truth, but not so difficult to define untruth. Not so difficult to describe or to recognize a lie. Very difficult to say what is punya. Very easy to say what is papa. There is no word, I think, in the English language for punya. There is, of course, sin for papa. But I am not going to semantics or etymology, but just to say the truth, though difficult to define, is easy to understand and recognize by its opposite, which is untruth. And in a court of law, the contestation between what is true and what is not true is sharp. Truth is, of course, much bigger than the word or the meaning fact. Facts are about what is true. What is factual is true, but truth is, of course, much bigger than facts. But I would like to say here that when, as a young student of law in the Inns of Court in London, M.K. Gandhi met a distinguished expert in legal matters. This person, his name was Pincut, told him, don't try to be a Feroz Shah Mehta. Just master the facts of the case. And then if you've done that, most of your work is done. Master the facts of the case. So facts are about truth. But the sum of facts is not the whole thing. Truth is bigger. And truth is also about contexts. Evidence is about facts. But there is something which goes a little beyond evidence. Like, for instance, the absence of evidence. The complete absence of evidence in the matter and the person would be entitled to acquittal. But even a judge who acquits a person because there is no evidence to prove his or her guilt might think inside her or his own mind that this person does not deserve to be acquitted, but he has to be acquitted because there is no evidence. So evidence and facts are the building blocks of truth, but there is finally something else, like the last click in the Rubik cube, which converts facts into truth. And that is the truth which is so elusive, which is so difficult to achieve. And yet that is the truth which has to be found in courts of law. And so graduating students, when you enter the portals of a court, or when you are assisting a corporate firm with your legal prowess, advising them on commercial matters, just remember that facts are very important. Facts are sacred. But truth is above facts, and it is that truth that you must serve. And you must serve that with diligence and courage. I want to say something about respect which is historical, and again I will go to the fascinating experience of MKG. As all of you know, when he first arrived in South Africa in 1893 and went to the Durban court to see the proceedings and sat there amongst those who were just witnessing the proceedings in the Oval, the magistrate looked hard at him, this newcomer, new Indian who was wearing a turban, and after some time said, "You can't wear a turban in the court." And Gandhi said, "I'm sorry, I cannot be asked to remove my turban," and he left. But he immediately wrote a letter to the editor where he had been commented on, his action had been commented on, to say that he did not mean any disrespect to the court. He just felt that his self-respect had been hurt by being asked to remove his turban. Because that was part of his attire, that was part of his personality, that was part of his ethnicity, that was part of his identity. But he wrote very clearly that he did not mean any disrespect to the court. But something more interesting happened. Another turban story of Gandhi, which is much less known, which is that a little later, when he enrolled as an attorney in South Africa, in the Apex Court, he again went wearing his turban. And once the formalities were done, he had been sworn in, so to say. The presiding judge said, "Now, Mr. Gandhi, you can remove your turban." And what did he do? He removed his turban. The famous case of his not removing his turban and walking out is well known. But less known is this, where he removed his turban and gave a brilliant explanation. Brilliant not in terms of being sparklingly witty, but being stunningly true. He said, "When in Durban I was asked to remove my turban, I was being insulted as a human being, which is what I was. I was there in my private capacity. But now, when I have been enrolled as an attorney, I have become an officer of the court and subservient to the rules and procedures and protocols of the court, and I must observe those procedures as an officer and a servant of the court. And I should not wear the turban if that is not consistent or compatible with these procedures." So respect is outward, but it is also inner. There's something very inner about it. Gandhi, who was an attorney and practiced very well in South Africa, earned extremely well, also doing a lot of pro bono work, no doubt, but earning very well too, was soon to become an activist and find himself an accused who was going to be sentenced to jail. And we know of the great trial in Ahmedabad when Justice Broomfield sentenced him to 6 years, a turning point in Gandhi's life which shook the whole country. But little know that in South Africa in 1908, when he served his first prison sentence, the judge of the day, Judge Jordan, said almost the same things which Judge Broomfield said. He said, Mr. Gandhi, you have asked for the highest punishment because you say that you are the one who inspired people, others to go to jail, and they have been given very high punishments, and you as the person who motivated them should get an even higher punishment. I see your point, but I do not see myself giving you such a high punishment because it will be a very high punishment, and I don't think you deserve such a high punishment. So I will give you a smaller punishment. I wish I could have given you a smaller punishment. Almost the same words as Broomfield. But there was respect for the law. The law that he was violating had a certain penal provision. Gandhi respected it. He wanted it to be given to him in its repleteness, in its ultimate power. And Judge Jordan, anticipating Judge Broomfield of Ahmedabad, gave him what he felt was a reasonable and fair punishment. Fairness. In Tamil, Honorable Chief Justice, there is a common phrase which is used, which is Nyayam. Idu Nyayama? Is this just? Is said very often. In a small situation where you may be bargaining for a certain price and a huge price is charged, and you can say, Idu Nyayama. And conversely, Anyayam. Said very commonly, Anyayam. Nyaya is a concept of concepts on which tracts have been written. Nyaya. It is about law, it's about justice. But the common person understands it. Nyaya. Understands Anyayam even more. Fairness, balance, ultimately Vishwasam and Nambikai and trust. Just as in music, there can be no definition of what is the true note. There is a true note, there is a false note. You can recognize the false note in an instant, even if you are completely unmusical like I am. But asked to define what is the Shuddha Swara, very difficult to define it. It is very easy to articulate it. It is very easy to appreciate it. Very difficult to define it. But there is a Shuddha Swara, which is like the pulse of Nyaya in a matter of law. So finding that pulse of Nyaya will be, dear graduating students, your task. If you face it with respect, you will go miles and be a pride to your parents, to your teachers, and to the august assembly where you are today being honored. Honorable Chief Justice, I thank you for your patience. Esteemed Vice Chancellor, I thank you for your invitation. But above all, I thank all those present here for having spared so many minutes to hear a complete novice speak on something of which you are experts and custodians. I thank you.
मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उत्कल जलधि तरंगा। तब शुभ नामे जागे, तब शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तब जय गाथा। जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता।